Control. Control is a concept. It's an idea. It's something that's made up by thought to pretend that the character that's navigating this illusion is in control of what's happening to it, and that it can make things happen, and that it can do things. But control is made up in thought, as thought. Because without thought, where's even the idea of control? Where is there something to talk about control? Where is there something that even needs to be in control? The idea of control is a thought. A thought says, I am in control. And then it gets upset when things don't go the way it wants them to go, because it predicts and creates stories about how it wants life to unfold in order for it to find the happiness that it seeks, that can never be found in things or in people or in places. Control is sought through creating situations where it will be in control, it will be happy, it will have it all down and feel safe and secure. So that house represents safety. That place represents safety. That person represents safety. The attainment of those things or that job represents safety. And when I feel safe, I'm in control. I know what's going on. This is the story that thought tells. One thought, then the next, then the next. And they get put together to create a story about the illusion of control. But what we don't realize is that all the time we are looking to things and people and places to find our safety and our control and to manipulate and to dominate them. We're in the game. We're identified with and as thought in the belief that all of these things exist and they can be manipulated and controlled. So we remain obsessed with all of the stuff that's seen, when in reality, it's not what is seen in the form of people, places, or things that are important in the slightest. In fact, they are all empty until thought projects its story onto it. That body sat across from this body is empty until there is a story here projected onto it, about it, by thought here. But the creation of that story is happening here, not over there. The ideas about that body and the supposed person that's inside and the personality that they have and the characteristics that they have and the things that they've supposedly done are all created by a story here, not over there. And so there's the constant projection onto bodies, onto things, onto places about their meaning, about what they are, what they do, what they say, what they mean. But all of those stories are created in here, not in the object itself. this cup is totally meaningless until we decide something about it. And it's no different with a person. That body does not mean anything until we create a story about it. Thought decides, is that a nice person or a nasty person or a patient person or an impatient person, based on its judgments that it's projecting onto what's happening and what that body's doing. We create the judgment, we create the criticism, we create the meaning, and then we get upset when that person no longer meets our story about them, because they're changing all the time. But we attempt with the stories within thought to pin them down so that we know who they are, we know what they are, and we can try and predict how they're going to be in an imaginary future. This is delusion. People are change. Bodies are part of this illusion, which is constantly changing. And to attempt to try and say that thing is the same all the time, and it only has these particular characteristics and never changes, is delusion. It's the creation of suffering. And what we don't see is that by being obsessed with what thought is saying about bodies, about what is supposedly happening, about the things and the places and the words and the images, we're stuck in the game. We're hypnotized by what is seen and what is heard, by the constant striving to give it meaning. But when we drop back into a position of just seeing things as being seen, as just seeing things as being images, and just hearing things as being sounds, without judging, without criticizing, without commenting, without having to figure it out and give it meaning, we see that it was always empty. It was always hollow. It was always neutral, right up until the point that thought created a story about it. And when we allow the bodies, the supposed things, the supposed places, in fact, everything that's seen, to fall back to being meaningless, to being empty, to seeing that we don't actually know what is going on at all. Thought is just creating stories about it. It's almost like we can see through it. It becomes illusionary. It loses its concreteness and its solidness, if that's a word. And it begins to be seen through. And in that seeing through of it, in that stopping of the judging and the criticism and the endless commentary about what's going on, in that silence, the energy, the consciousness, the awareness that is present in all those things, as all of those things, through all those things, that transcends them, that just goes through them, that is there the whole time, reveals itself. But that can't be seen. It can't be experienced. It can't be lived all the time. There remains an obsession with people, places, and things, and the content of what is seen and heard, because that is what is detracting all of the energetic attention and taking up all of the energy and reducing the focus down onto the creation of these stories about things that inherently have no meaning, that have no story, until thought projects them on to it. This body here means nothing, has no story, until this body here starts talking about it in thought and projecting its ideas about who it is, what it does, how it says things, how it lives. And those judgments create the story about that person existing inside that body. Without that story being projected, it's seen there is no person inside this body other than the story that is created by thought over here. There are no people inside these bodies, only the stories within thought that say so. Nobody can ever be a small select group of attributes for the whole of that body's existence. It's deluded to believe that. But yet thought creates a story about a supposed person and who they are and how they behave and what their personality is, and then it pretends that's who they are all the time. We only experience that body a select few experiences throughout the whole of its existence. We have no idea what it's doing, what it's saying, or what it's up to in all the times that we are not with it and not experiencing it. But the story projected onto that body is created entirely by those few experiences that we supposedly have on it. And then a massive story and belief about who that person is created by the judgment about them, by the comparison supposedly with them, that is created within a thought system over here. Can you see that those are just judgments? They're just ideas about who that person is. You don't actually know who that person is or what they are at all, other than the fact a body appears to be seen and words appear to be coming out. Everything else is a story about a person who is supposedly speaking from inside that body. But there's no one in there. There never was. Everything that is seen, every body, every object, everything is made up of the same energy. There is no separation between objects. There is no separation between people. There is no separation between places until thought says so. Thought creates the story of separation, and within that story of separation is comparison and competition, and inherent within comparison and competition is suffering, is fear, is not being good enough, not matching up, having low self-worth. There can be no suffering when there is no comparison, when there is no judgment, when there is no competition, when there is no comment about that supposed other, and they're just seen to be a body sitting on a chair making sounds, no differently to a bird sitting on a branch making sounds, or a dog sitting at a gate making sounds. The meaning about what is happening, the meaning about what that supposedly means to a me, is created within the story of thought. When that drops away and there is only silence, there are only sounds, then the bird, the dog, and the person are all just images being seen and heard. We project the meaning. We project whether we like or don't like something from the perspective of who we believe ourselves to be within thought. That story of like and dislike is created within thought, and we are not thought. Thought arises in us. Can you listen to a body talk and see that it's just sounds? Can you read an email on a screen and see that it's just words? It's just patterns. Because when you can, there doesn't have to be any belief in it anymore. The seriousness of that meaning can fall away. And that energy, that consciousness, that is moving all of these bodies and things and creating all of these images and sounds and sensations, can begin to reveal itself. But it can't do that all the time. Awareness is obsessed with thought, identified with thought, and believes that judging and criticizing and comparing and contrasting is vital to its existence, that those judgments keep it safe, because that's where the suffering lies. Judgments don't do anything apart from create suffering. See that every thought is nothing more than a judgment, a thought about someone else supposedly being there can only be a judgment, because how can there ever be an ability to know anything about something supposedly else? There just isn't. It's entirely imagined. All of the content of thought is entirely imagined. And we listen to those stories as awareness, and we buy into them, and we get hypnotized with them. And before we know it, it's my life with all of these things happening to me, and all of those people who are affecting me, and all of these things that I am scared about that are going on, that have all been imagined within the story of thought. Sit back and watch it roll by, like you're in the cinema with a pot of popcorn, watching it talking about somebody else, because it's not talking about what you really are. And the only thing that holds you as awareness into that system is the belief in it as what you are. Sit back and watch it and see that it doesn't know anything. It's pretending it knows what's going on. It's pretending it has an idea about what's happening. In reality, it knows nothing. And when you clearly, totally see that it does not in reality know, then you don't have to buy into it anymore as a truth. You don't have to listen to a judgment like it's a fact. You can let go. You can stop resisting what is, and you can allow whatever is present to fully be here without resisting it as a story within thought. Just sit, watch, and allow. You are the presence that thought arises within. That I that it talks about simply does not exist. The story of you, the story of other, is entirely imagination. And the freedom that is inherent in seeing that is sublime. And you get to see that this is all nothing more than a hologram that thought projects meaning onto, that we create as awareness. You are everybody else. You are not an individual being inside of that body navigating an external world. You are the same consciousness, the same awareness that is in every single body that you will ever meet. That is in every single part of this image that is arising. And that is seen. There is only you. But thought has separated itself off and continues to create stories like there is itself and there is other. But that's a story. There is no self and other. There is only consciousness in many different forms. All of those forms are in reality the same thing. The only thing that says any different is a thought. Thoughts do not provide direct experience. Thoughts do not provide the opportunity to really see. They are information, they are knowledge that has been given by other thoughts elsewhere and taken on as fact. They're not facts, they're just beliefs passed around within a collective consciousness that says, I am a body, I am these thoughts, and everything else is separate to me. But do you know that? Or does thought just think that? Because there's a really big difference between thinking something and knowing it. When you know it, there's no shadow of a doubt. There's no moving away from it. There's no arguing with it. It just is in your gut. It's seen, it's known, it's felt, it's a truth. When it's a thought, it's some words saying so. Thoughts are beliefs, they're ideas, they're judgments about what's going on. They are in no way the truth. Just let it be there. Just let that thought arise and leave it alone. Just allow it to be there. Don't touch it. Don't comment on it. Don't criticize or judge it. Don't talk about it. Just let it be there as an energy form arising and then going. The power in doing that, the power in allowing it to be there without hooking on the next one, without buying into it energetically, without believing what it's saying, is liberation, is freedom. What you are is not a person. What you are is not a thought. What you are is certainly not a body. Everything arises in you, as you. You are an energy so vast and expansive that a thought just seems like a tiny, insurmountable, tiny speck of dust within the vastness of that energy. But it feels insurmountable. It feels crazy. Thoughts feel solid because we believe them, because we've become addicted to the emotional sensation that they create, which makes us feel alive as awareness. But what we don't realize is that emotional sensations, they're fake. We are creating our own negative sensations in the form of negative emotions for the sake of feeling alive. We don't have to believe it. You don't have to buy into it. Just let it be there. It just wants to be seen, but not touched, not bought into, not believed. And then it goes.